I don't know. I'm recording it. I'm just gonna take the chance that it's recording it, that it's recording the board, and I'll just see what happens. So.
It's showing that you're recording.
Okay. Yeah. So this is what the small intestine does. There are three. So this is like getting at one of those questions. How is the small intestine adapted to perform this function? This is the function. Absorption and chemical breakdown. So really the question is, how is the small intestine adapted to absorb nutrients? There's three things. One, they're called villi. So if I were to take like a section of the intestine, like slice away a section of the intestine, and we just look at it, it doesn't look like, it's not smooth like that, like just looking into some kind of pipe, right? It looks like, got all these, it was that picture that I showed you like a week ago. It's got those finger-like projections in them. And so if I were to take this, like, all right, let's say we got two equally sized like tubes, right? And let's say I cut it right there. I cut it and then I flatten it out. I make it flat. So it'll be like that, right? And if I do the same thing here and I cut it here and then I flatten it out, it'll be like that. Same width, but this actually has more surface area. Right, so I've got all this area to absorb stuff. So these are that's the villi. Or villus for singular. Right, so the small intestine has those little fingers inside them that make it, that's one way it can absorb things better. So for villus, I'm going to put, or for villi, I'm going to put increased surface area. You might not be able to see all of it, just write it down though. So villi increase the surface area. More surface, more absorption. Then the villi have little villi on top of them. So if like this is a villus, like one of those fingers, there's like little tiny villi on top of that. So we call that microvilli. No, so it's doing the same thing, right? It's even further increasing the surface area. So villi and microvilli increase the amount of surface to make it better at absorbing things. So villi increase surface area, microvilli increase surface area. The third one is called circular folds. So if we go back to this, think of like a drain pipe. Like here's like a drain pipe, right? And then it's got like water flowing through it, right? And so the water is down here at the bottom, right? So like as I'm standing here, I've got like this stuff. By the way, we call this stuff chyme. Chyme is food that's you swallow the bolus, then it gets into your stomach, and your stomach liquefies it. We call that liquefied stuff chyme. And even though it's like with a CH, but because there's like a vowel after it, whenever you see a vowel after CH, make it like a hard K sound, right? So it's chyme, not chime. No, that's this person. So it's flowing through like this, right? That's not how it does it in our intestine, because if it's flowing through, what about all of this up here? It's not getting a chance to absorb stuff, right? So instead, what it does is that this is all folded in a way, there's folds in here that make this chyme go in a circular motion. So you're saying, what should I put for here? Like that, it forces chyme to go in a circular pattern or motion, right? So that all the intestine gets a chance to absorb. I'm absolutely freezing in here. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Why are they running this? They don't have to run the AC all the time. This is like a 10-year-long fight with me and the college. They just, I think it's, part of it, I think, is Louisiana. It's just me. When you go into places, it's freezing, freezing, freezing. When you go to other parts of the country, they don't, I think it's because it gets so hot here that it just, we like to have the other extreme. Nunez, man, this room. I don't know how to take tests and stuff. So that's it. Villi, microvilli, circular folds. That's the absorption part. So I'm going to erase that. Let's talk about the chemical breakdown part. All right, the chemical breakdown. So even if something's liquid, even if you're drinking your food and it's liquid, you still have to chemically break this food down. And we do this through enzymes. Remember, enzymes make anything happen. Enzymes break things down, but they also build things. In this case, we're talking about digestion, so we're talking about digestive enzymes. They're breaking things down. And the ones that I'm going to tell you, there's lots of them. These are made by the pancreas. So I'm just going to give you a few. So one of them is called trypsin. Trypsin is an enzyme that breaks down proteins. Give you another one. Elastase, it sounds like elastic, so it breaks down elastic, which is also a protein, right? These fibers are proteins. So these two are for proteins. There's a lot, most of the digestive enzymes are for proteins, because your body spends a lot of energy breaking down proteins. If you want to feel like you're full, like when you're hungry and you just want to put food into you so you feel like you're full, proteins are your best bet. We call them satiating, right? And so the worst is lipids like fats and simple sugars. The best is proteins. So we have trypsin, elastase. Both of these are for proteins. That's the substrate. The substrate is the thing that the enzyme works on. Like, what is the enzyme? What's its specialty? We call that substrate. So the substrate for these two are proteins. Then lipase. That substrate is going to be lipids. Notice that most of the time they end with ASE. If you see something that ends with ASE, it's an enzyme. Not every single enzyme ends with ASE. Some of them end with IN. So anyway, There's free amylase. That's one of your labs. Had to do with that. Amylase breaks down carbohydrates, in particular starch. I'll leave it at just 4. I used to give 10. You guys are having a hard time this semester. There is one in your stomach that I'm just going to tell you about, and it's just FYI. It's called Pepsin. Usually enzymes do not survive the acidic conditions like in your stomach. Enzymes cannot live in your stomach because it's too acidic. But Pepsin is a can't think of the word. It's an exception to the rule. Okay. All right, so there's your 4 enzymes. Remember, we talked, so these are made by the pancreas, right? All of these are made by the pancreas. You do make some of these enzymes in other places in your body. For example, you can make amylase in your saliva. So, when you eat a piece of bread, you're already starting the chemical digestion because you're mixing amylase in with your bread. Like you're chewing it, and the amylase in your saliva is mixing in there, and it's starting to chemically break it down. It's turning it into malt. But you find it in your saliva. This is also kind of in your saliva, but you find it mainly in your pancreas. Because this is in your saliva, but then you swallow the food. What's going to happen to the amylase when it gets into the acid in your stomach? It denatures it. It changes its shape. It doesn't work anymore. So amylase. Anyway, these are four enzymes. Don't forget that lipase doesn't work unless bile has gotten in there. And don't think of bowel. That's a different word. Bile's not throw up. Bile's not bowel movement. It's just something your liver makes that breaks fat droplets down into smaller fat droplets so that the lipase can get to it. And if the lipase can't get to it, then you're not going to break it down. And if you don't break down fat chemically, you can't absorb it. So that's what that weight loss product Ally does. Ally blocks lipase. They call it a pancreatic lipase inhibitor, right? So it blocks lipase, and because you're blocking lipase, you cannot break down the fat that you eat in your food, and because you can't do that, it goes right through you, and so it's not calories. You can't break it down, it's not calories. It is diarrhea though. I mean, you gotta pay. You have to. Everyone has to pay. All right, so that's the small intestine. You do not have to know the 3 parts of the small intestine until you get into AP2. Yeah, mainly for absorption. Right? Then the food moves into the large intestine. And when you look at it, we call it like the colon, right? So there's different parts. Like the large intestine is going to, well, it kind of looks like this. So it's going to start down here, and it's going to come up, and it's going to go over, and it's going to drop back down, right? So it's coming up here, drawing something. I'm not a great artist, obviously. There we go. I kind of did it. Hold on, I got it. All right, whatever. All right, it's like this. All your small intestines are here. This is your large. So at the beginning of your large intestine, this is your appendix. So your appendix is right down here. And then right here is something called your cecum. You know what? I don't need you to know this. It's okay if you don't know the cecum. It's like a little pouch. Right? So there's your appendix, there's your cecum. This one we call ascending, right? Because it's going up. And then when something goes across, it transverses. And then obviously, since it went up, it ascended, and now it's going down, we call it descending. Descending colon. And then right here, this last one we call sigmoid. I guess it comes from math. Like this is like a sigma, that sigma sign in math, and it's half of that. Whatever. But usually, when someone gets like an endoscopy, they do a sigmoidoscopy, right? They're not going to stick that camera like all the way through, although they probably should, because once you're up there, damage is done. So, but they usually just look right around here. I haven't done it yet, but I'm at that age now I'm supposed to do it. I'm not ready. The technology is going to save me. It's right there. We're right at that. We're at the cusp of the technology being able to solve the problem where you can look for cancer and you don't have to stick fingers or cameras or anything up there. So we're right there. It's like I don't want to commit myself because I know that if they stick a camera up me, in 6 months the technology will come out. So what does the large intestine do? That's what you really have to know. It reclaims water. That's its main, it's not its only function, it's the main function of the large intestine. Reclaim water. Then that's it. This is like, you know, the rectum that holds it, and then the food goes out. You know, the food comes in as chyme, and it starts becoming feces at this, you know, when it goes through here. So it's entering as a liquid, it's leaving as a solid. So the water just gets absorbed, right? If your appendix were to, if you get appendicitis, that's like inflamed, right? And then if it breaks, at this point, it's still liquid. So the liquid poo just starts, like, this is a cavity in here. Like, we think it's like solid, but there's spaces in there. Like, if I open this up, I can stick my hand in different places. There's just open spaces. I can stick my hand and, like, I can find a place and stick my hand in the side and touch your backbone, right? So there's open. So when this breaks open, your liquid poo time is gonna like just start filling your cavity. Of course, that's gonna get into your blood. Called sepsis. So they just, you know, they clip it off and sew it up. That's the digestive system, a real crash course into the digestive system. I want you to know those enzymes. I want you to know what the pancreas does. You know, the pancreas makes enzymes. The pancreas makes bicarbonate. That's a good word to know. But, so it makes bicarb. Bicarb is an antacid. It raises the pH. Of course, it also makes enzymes. It does other things too. The pancreas makes hormones that you'll learn about next semester. But for the digestive system, it makes sodium bicarbonate, it makes enzymes. You have to know the function of the large intestine, reclaim water. Function of the small intestine, absorption, and chemical breakdown, but absorption. Function of the stomach, liquefies food. It turns the bolus into chyme. So stomach turns your bolus into chyme. Why? What's so special about the stomach that it can do that? It's got that third layer of muscle, diagonal layer, or we call it oblique. Oblique muscle layer, so it's got a third, right? Everything else has 2 layers of muscle. Longitudinal, which runs like up and down the organ, and circular. Circular muscle. So it's got, so my small intestine, my large intestine has longitudinal muscle, circular muscle. It's right underneath that epithelial tissue, right? But the stomach has a third oblique or diagonal layer, if you want to say diagonal. And so it's really pushing the food around inside your stomach. So the oblique layer and hydrochloric acid you better know, this is what everybody writes this, so I don't want to tell you don't write this. But at the same time, I know what some of you do that just drives me crazy is that you just put H, you don't even know that's an L, that could be a 1. Like, you have no idea what this is, some of you, sometimes. It's just, I wrote this and I wrote that, you just throw it on the test. You don't care about your next class or your next class, and you're gonna go try to be a PA or something, like a physician's assistant. Right? And you're just living like, I just want to get through this class, then I just want to get through the next class. And this is hydrochloric acid. It's easy, right? Hydrogen, chlorine, and nobody writes out hydrochloric acid. It's like, there's no reason to, you just abbreviate it. I want to let you abbreviate things. But I also want you to know, like, what is HCl? Well, obviously this means acid, right? And so when you see this, you're like, oh, stomach. If I were to just write, hey, tell me about HCl in your body, then you're going to go right to stomach. Starting, I guess I'm kind of listing things here already. Same thing for the small intestine. What's the function of the small intestine, and how is it adapted to perform that function? I already wrote it. Just go back in the lecture. Villi. Don't just write villi. How? What is it about the villi? It increases the surface area. Villi, microvilli also increase surface area. And circular folds. They make all that chyme, all that liquid, go in a circular motion. Your villus, so there's a villus. you've got inside the villus, that's where all your blood vessels are. Oh, that's not blue. That's not blue. That's not blue either. Whatever. So you'll see it's like red and blue. Oh, that green. You'll see different colors in your book, red and blue and green. The red and blue, when you look at something, that's telling you about the blood supply. We've got two different types of blood. You've got blood with oxygen. You have blood with a lot of oxygen in it, and you have blood with not so much oxygen in it. But anyway, when you see the red and blue, that means your blood. So if, this is like a piece of glucose, it's going to enter, this is like glucose out here, and the glucose is going to squeeze in between your epithelial cells and enter your bloodstream. This green part is something called, it's lymph. You've probably heard of lymph, like lymph node. So the fats will go into the lymph. Right? But this is where the villus, that's where all the nutrients and energy enters your body from your digestive system. Speaking of red and blue, I'm about to introduce you to the heart. You have any questions on digestive system? You gotta know their functions. We talked about that last lecture. What do they do? Okay. I'd like to introduce you to the heart for about 15 minutes or so, and then I think we're okay. Like how I did that? I went to see what time it was, but I'm really just kind of glanced at my emails. What you guys do to me. I don't see anyone after the camera. See? They're doing what I would do. Oh, someone popped up. Hey, you're my good student. I see you. I made a note. Too late now for the rest of you. Let's talk about the heart. That's my next. Am I supposed to be lecturing? Let me go run and see, like, let me open up the screen and see what we're doing for the rest of the semester. We're done. It should be about done. I'm about done. Let me just jump into class. You guys see my screen?
All I see is the whiteboard.
The whiteboard, okay, that's fine. I'm just taking a quick look and seeing what is up. So we're on quiz 4. Okay, so I might push through. I might go until. So what I've got is next week, I've got just review. So I can stop now and do a class on Monday, or I could push through until about 10:45 or close to 11, and then not have class next week. So I think I might do that. I'll be here next week. It's just that it's like a review. Really, what you could do with that time is if, you haven't done the extra credit, do that.
Yeah, I think you
And then our
should.
our last exam, for those of you that are taking it, is on the 17th in class. I have no choice, it's happening. I don't know what day that is.
Mr. Claus.
A Wednesday? It's next Wednesday, huh?
Oh, he
Oh,
from
yeah. Hey, okay, so Monday, no class. Wednesday is our final on campus, everybody.
3 hours.
Yeah. It's exam 4. So, I mean, a lot of you, if you did the extra credit, you might just use that for exam 4 and not come. Some of you watching are gonna wanna schedule it for another day, but I'm gonna have grades in like Thursday or Friday, so you really don't. I think I gotta have grades in like the next day, so you don't really have time to
Can you hear me?
not do it.
You can hear me?
Where can I find the extra credit?
I don't think he can hear me. You can hear
What's
me?
the question?
How long you gonna be at the school today? Cause I'm in Mr. K.
I can't hear you,
don't
I'm
get
sorry.
You can hear me now?
Is that you talking?
No, that's not.
That's Deja
She's asking how long she gonna be in there.
Wait, say it one more time, I'm right under the speaker.
How long are you gonna be at the school today?
How long am I gonna be at school today?
Yeah.
Um,
I'm in Mr. Campbell class. I get out at 12 o'clock.
I'll wait for you. I'll stay for
He
you.
said, okay, good.
You know where my office is? Are you talking about you wanna take the test?
Yeah.
This area?
This Deja.
Just come after you're done, I'll wait for you.
Okay.
And if I'm not around my office, text me, I'll be here.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna talk about the heart. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop this recording and I'm gonna start another one and start talking about the heart, so.